Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With fishingbooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. Fishingbooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to fishingbooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.
Scree gear is more than apparel. It's a tribute to the relentless, the tireless, the true guardians of the wilderness. It's for those who seek not just a game, but a legacy. Not just a sport, but a way of life. In our gear, you're more than a hunter. You're a story, a tradition, a legend in the making. Scree is your journey, your triumph, your success. Join the working man revolution. Success awaits.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Well, today, we're going to talk about preserving meat, especially in like a off-grid, end of the world, shit hits the fan kind of situation.
Right,
the idea is, basically when there's no refrigeration and no easy way to do things. So we're going to talk about, some of the obvious, the salt curing and the smoking. We're going to go into detail step by step so that way you guys can do it and don't end up stuck. And some of the other options you have, we're going to touch on. But there's not a lot of ways to preserve meat. I mean, the best way is to kind of cook it while it's fresh, right? That's the answer. But
stick it in the freezer. I mean, that's the obvious. We all have a
fridge,
a great asset right now, full freezer. A freezer full of meat. I mean, if you're planning ahead, but the power goes out and doesn't come back on. What are you going to do with all that frozen meat? You can only eat so much,
Yeah.
Last weekend, I was excited. It wasn't last weekend. It was 4th of July weekend. I got super excited. I bought 8 pounds of steak.
Yeah.
I only got through 3 pounds on my own.
Kevin, you're just one man. I mean, you're the victim.
I would think in a weekend I could eat more than 3 pounds of steak, but that wasn't the case.
Who knew? And that's the thing. I mean, just preserving what you already have, in the thing. Now, canning meat, that's a different thing, and that's definitely an option. You can can meat, and you might want to look into that. We're gonna, like really said, really focus on salt curing and smoking in this episode. But what are some of the other options? So we have canning meat. Like, what can we do?
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of people do fermentation, but that's not really great for most meats. So you use that fermented foods or like hard cheeses, yogurt, beer, vinegar, wine, salami. All these things will last a long time. So with meats, it's salami, pepperoni, and chorizo. I mean, I'm sure there's other ones along that lines, but that's basically what you're getting out of that is some of those cured meats. Now, the French call it charcuterie.
Oh,
I appreciate a charcuterie board. It's just smoked and fermented meats. Love it. But also, there's a lot of other ways to preserve things that maybe aren't as effective, but also good options. Preserving meat with fat and oil.
Oh.
So you go. What you would do is basically you're gonna boil the meat with oil or fat is what it is. You kind of want animal fat in there.
You're boiling it in the fat.
In the fat, right? Then you're gonna put it in a container and seal it up as best as possible, and it'll last for months. And you just scrape that fat off the top before you eat it because that's gonna have some bacteria in it,
right?
And then you eat your meat, and that can last for months. They would basically put it in a pot, and just put a lid on the pot, and the fat would seal the meat in.
Right, and that's it. You're just sealing it up so no air and bacteria is getting to it. And obviously by boiling it in the fat, you're killing anything on the internal side.
Right.
And therefore, keeping everything out and keeping sealed, which is awesome. I mean, that's one of the things like they always talk about with meat. Like, so the reason when you go to the places, like you'll see some people slice off a steak and eat it raw, just pick up the piece and eat it and with beef, and you're like, oh, how can they do that? Well, the idea is, so with a steak cut, that cut, only the outside surface is exposed to air and bacteria. So anything off the inside, you're clean. And that's why they say like ground meat, you need to cook more thoroughly. Again, do I eat very close to rare burgers? Yes, I do. And have I ever had a problem? No, I have not. But that's because meat gets kept refrigerated and away from bad things.
And America has the best doctors in the world. If you get a case of the squirts, you can get that taken care of. If you can go to the doctor, it ain't a big deal. Salmonella isn't even a killer if you're, living in a first world country. If you can go to the doctor, that's not always going to be an option, though, right? You don't want to get salmonella and have no one to take a look at you.
Exactly. So what else are we doing with curing the meat here? What can we do? Or
some other basic ways for preserving. You can preserve with sugars like jams and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. You can also preserve with alcohol. They've been doing that for years, but it's basically you're filling up a jar with fruit and topping it off with rum, and it's basically good forever. But also, you don't want that to be your only option. Like you have to get drunk every single time you eat. You might have other problems at that point.
I know the doctor's always like, well, you're pickling your liver. And I'm like, yeah, I'm preserving it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It'll be good for years.
Perfect specimen.
My body will decompose. My liver's going to be around for 100 years afterwards, though.
Yeah, that may not be the case, but, whatever.
So the best way, though, for preserving meat is salt curing.
All right.
And that's... it's not the best way. Salt curing and smoking is the best way to do it. Yeah. But salt curing is really, if you're smoking meat to preserve it long term, you want to salt cure it first, right?
Yeah. Now, technically, if done correctly, salt curing will leave it like shelf stable forever.
Right.
I mean, it's like indefinite. It's good.
Right.
So the idea is the salt draws out the moisture, and it promotes actually good bacteria. That's why, they always hear about the French who will let meat hang until like mold and stuff grow on it and whatever. And you're like, oh, that's horrible. But these are actually good bacteria that are growing on. Now, mind you, I'm scraping that off.
You scrape it off first. You might want to cut that outer layer out.
We don't need to get too crazy, right? Mm-hmm. So the big thing, right, if you're going to salt cure meat, is you need salt that is 100% salt. You don't want your iodized salt. You don't want with like little preservatives. They have stuff that keeps it from turning into hard chunks.
Yeah. You want to be conscientious about your salt.
It has to be salt. All right. Yeah. So it has to be pure. So believe it or not, like that Himalayan pink salt, that's actually good. Most kosher salt, it should be good. I think if it's kosher, I think it has to meet that criteria.
Right.
But again, look at the label. If there's anything besides salt in it, it's a no-go for preserving. Now, end of the world, and you're like, oh, I only have this container of iodized salt. Yeah, go for it. It's okay.
Right.
But in general, when you're curing meat, you want something that's pure. All right. I mean, I'm just saying that would be better than dying. Would be to risk that, there might have been something in there. I don't know. No, but if you're buying salt to preserve it, you want to
be particular about your salt.
All right. So pure salt, nothing else. Sea salt, obviously Himalayan. So I looked around. It's hard to find pure salt in quantity. Mm-hmm. Now, you actually don't need that much salt to preserve meat. It's not as dramatic as you think. But still, I would want a big bag if this was my plan. If part of my whole long-term survival plan depended on preserving meat, then you're going to want to buy like a 5-gallon bucket of salt or, 50-pound bag, something like that you actually have it and are good to go. Now, so what you're going to do now that you have the good salt, you want like quality meat. That's the thing. But I mean, that's kind of obvious, right? Like, I mean,
Right.
why would I be, if something's suspect or questionable, that's the meat you cook and use right away.
Right away, right.
The stuff that you preserve is the stuff that's in good shape.
And another thing, if you're preserving it, you want it fresh. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You don't want to get it, stick it in the refrigerator for 3 days, and then go about doing it. You want it as fresh as possible.
As fresh as possible. But again, everything's, within standard, and yeah, you don't want to really freeze it first and do, but again, if it's the apocalypse and my giant freezer went out,
it's time to get to work.
Try and cure that meat, even though it was frozen. Yeah, I probably am. All right. I don't know the official rulings on that, but I know that I'm going to give it a shot. So, bottom line, you're going to coat the sides of the meat. Usually, I actually have they say it's like 2.5% of, so if you're cooking, a pound of meat, you would take, a 2.5% of a pound, whatever the heck that is. I don't even know, like grams, I don't know, is about the amount of salt that it'll end up working out to be. But a thicker cut, you're going to end up going to like 3%, and a really thin cut, you would do 2%. But basically, the bottom line, you don't need to get crazy with that. The bottom line is you want to coat the sides until nothing sticks to the outside of the meat. All right. So salt. Then you're going to set it in a container in a cool, dry place, and you're going to leave it for 5 days. Now, what they usually recommend is to get, I know people have those drying racks that you put for, like, when you make cookies, they'll take them off the pan and put them on the rack so that way the bottom doesn't burn. Racks like that, they'll set the meat on that. And why they do that is the moisture is going to extract out of the meat and drip into the pan and leave it. So you don't want it laying in that juice while it's trying to dry.
Right.
So the other scenario, hey, I don't have a drying rack, or I'm not willing to do that. That's fine. Just every day you got to go make sure that pan gets cleaned out and is dry and it's back to sitting in there.
Right.
But that's the bottom line. So you're going to let it sit for 5 days.
After the most important, I mean, that is the most important part, is extracting as much moisture as possible.
Right. Now you can go a few days over or whatever, but it's got to be at least 5 days. Now, at that point, you're going to go rinse it off, and you're going to rinse all that salt off. So it's not like it's going to ruin my meat. It's going to taste all salty. You're going to rinse all of it off. Now, you're not like scrubbing it, but any kind of big crusted glaze, you can kind of scrape that off and, whatever, but you're rinsing the meat. At that point, you're going to put it on a hook and cool, dry place. Now, they also sell like string that you can basically punch a hole in it and run the string through to hang it. That's another option, but I mean, you got metal coat hangers, whatever. I don't know if that's probably a bad idea, but some kind of clean hook, right? We'll say a nice stainless steel hook. Fine. Yeah. And you're going to hang the meat up. You're going to let it hang for at least another 5 days. So you rinse and brush it to get the excess salt off. Pat it dry with a towel, something like that. Just anything that's not going to leave lint and, crap in there, they say. Hang the meat on hooks or twine, cool, dark place for 5 days. And basically after that 5 days, you're going to take it, grab it, pull it out. Now you're going to take that cut of meat, and you should be able to hold it, and it shouldn't be like floppy or or move. It should be like a brick kind of thing, like just solid and stiff. And basically that's it. Now you need to wait until it is dry, and basically it'll lose 30% of its weight.
Right. Just
over that time. Yeah. And you should be able to kind of check that, if you're paranoid, that's, one of the things you can do. Now you can kind of keep it there forever in that cool, dry place. And that's kind of how you're going to want to store it long term. I know cool and dry is not always an option. I know in the great state of North Carolina, maybe not the option we have. Cool and, the cool part Honestly, the dry part's hard to come by. You're up in the Northeast. Dry is also not
now it's
as easy to come by.
it's like 80% humidity up here during the summer every day.
Yeah, exactly. But that's basically how you salt cure meat, and that's going to work and preserve it. As long as you let it dry, you keep it away from the bugs and the bad things while you do
Right.
all that, you're going to be good. And that is going to make it safe. Now, there's smoking meat, and there's a couple of things. If you want smoking to actually last kind of forever and really work, like preserve it like this, you need to do this salt cure process beforehand.
Right. If you're not salt curing it first, you're just smoking it for flavor, really.
Right.
I mean, it'll add a little bit of time, but
it will add time. And that's the thing. But so that was actually one of the things I was going to touch on is the Indians were actually kind of the ones who came up with the whole smoking meat thing. And I mean, I don't know, you could say, well, no, my Uncle Johnny, 20 generations back, he was doing it in England, and maybe he was. I don't know. I wasn't there. But the way history tells the story is that in the teepees, they would hang the meat to keep it up from the little animals and the dogs and the things that they had. And maybe you can tell me they didn't have dogs in the, whatever. I don't know. But bottom line, they would hang the meat up to keep it away from the critters. And while they would have their fire to stay warm, it ended up smoking the meat. And what would happen is, now again, it would be up there long term, right? They're leaving it all the time. And you kind of always have a cooking fire going if it's, cold time of year, right? You always have something going on in the teepee. So what would happen is it would become like dry and hard. And they would take it and they would grind it up into like a powder. And they would add other stuff that they liked, usually like herbs, fruits, vegetables, the other stuff they dried. And they would mix it up and it would become that pemmican that you keep seeing in the ad. That's basically what that is. They would usually grind it up into a powder and then add a little fat to get it to stick together, which kind of goes back to Kevin's theory of kind of preserving the meat and locking things out with the fat. So they would add a little fat, and then that would be those little bars. I actually have a picture for you guys. So if you're watching the video, basically it's this, kind of looks like beef jerky, to be honest. And just kind of with whatever stuff they put in there, but you don't need the other things that was added flavor. Basically they're grinding up the dried meat and then soaking it in fat, and and they're just like kind of rubbing it together with the fat is how the Indians were doing it. I checked out some recipes, and that's how you're preserving it. And so again, if you didn't have salt to salt cure it, that might be the answer. A lot of those, that Lost Ways book and all those things. And they're like, oh, this, you got the creepy old man with the beard. Maybe it's not creepy. I have a beard. I don't know. Maybe I'm creepy.
Having a beard automatically makes you creepy. There's nothing that you can do about it.
And, but so that's the thing. So you'll have the stuff that you can preserve right there without the salt, and you can kind of keep it forever. And I mean, these are real go-tos that are actually going to make the difference and kind of give you time, to eat the food that you already have and not lose it. And obviously if you kill a deer, you kill a cow, you kill, whatever. Now, Kevin said taking the fat from another animal is the way to go. And I agree, but if all you got is the one animal and the one bit of fat, then guess what? That's going to be your trick,
traditionally, pemmican that you would make today would just be beef tallow. It would be the fat you would use.
Right.
But like you said, you're going to use the fat, whatever fat you can get your hands on, for that sort of, an emergency situation. If you're doing this on your weekend, just to, to play around, find some beef tallow to make it with. But otherwise, use what you got. There's nothing wrong with that.
Now, so a traditional smokehouse, what you'd want to do is you're basically making a firebox, and you're going to have a this can be anything. I've seen people use like a little charcoal grill, and then they'll take that metal dryer vent, the
Mhm.
6-inch ducting, and they'll run it to some kind of box. Now, I'm actually working on one now in the backyard, and I had scored some good lumber from. I had actually found off like Facebook yard sale. I went to
Nice.
go buy windows from somebody, and he's like, I have this barn. If you give me $60 a day, you can take as much siding off the barn as you want, because I'm just going to push it down and have to burn it all. So whatever. And I was like, yeah. I sat out there for 2 days, and I got a lot of wood. And but anyway, so you're going to make now something, like I said, it could be like a little charcoal grill, those little round ones that you have at the campground, or it could be something like a cement box. What I did for my play, my version is I ended up getting I'm going to make it out of bricks, like in the fire block inside, because I'm overthinking things and whatever.
Right.
But I also bought Tractor Supply had those, you could buy the big iron door and like the kit to make a 55-gallon drum into a wood stove.
Yeah.
Now, you could actually do that, do the 55-gallon drum in the wood stove, but I just wanted the big heavy door. At the time, it was like $40. I'm sure it's like 80 now with inflation, who knows. But I bought the big heavy door that I could have a nice hinge door on my, brick fireplace and load it up. I've seen people do where they make that box, they put a grate on top, and what they did is the grate they could use as a grill and cook at the same time, so they could kind of cook, and then you divert, like as long as the majority of the smoke is going up and out. So that's it. So you have the box, you're going to have a pipe going out the back that's going to then go into the smokehouse. Now, usually you want it to be like 10 feet away, something like that. And you're going to, have the smoke fill up the box. What I plan to do is basically a outhouse size building. And when I had old ovens that I was looking to get away, because I've been planning this for a while, when I had old ovens I was looking to get rid of, I actually took the racks. And so those racks are going to be like stacked up, and that's how wide I'm going to make it. So I can just, stack the racks there to throw the smoke in. Now, a traditional smokehouse, all you're really looking for is you need some way to vent it. You need the smoke to come in, and the vent is so you can control the heat, and you need some kind of thermometer in there. You do want it to be airtight. Sorry, not airtight, like insect proof.
Right.
So things aren't getting in there. However, whatever, while the smoke's in there, it's not going to be a problem.
Right. There's not going to be a whole lot in there.
When people finish smoking it, a lot of times they'll leave the meat in there. And if you plan to do that, you need to be able to secure it from bugs for that initial, drying time. For the smoke to adhere to the meat, there does technically still have to be some moisture in there. So that's something you want to, be aware of. It's kind of hard to find that delicate balance. When you set up a smoker, typically, if you want it to be really smoky flavored, you want it to be 80 to 110 degrees. If you go 110 or a tiny bit higher, that's going to make it dry quicker. You never want to go over 200 degrees or you're just cooking it.
Right.
You never use like gas or lighter fluid to kind of get that fire going. You want to keep it pure and nice. Typical wood for a smokehouse, you want to use like hickory or oak, seem to be the go-tos.
Yeah, you want to use hardwoods. You never want to use like any kind of pine or cedar or anything like that. Yeah, it would be best to apple, fruit tree woods. A lot of people use wood from fruit trees.
Maple.
Yeah, maple. Hickory is obviously that's
mesquite, pecan, black walnut. Yep.
Right.
But I would say most of the time people use oak. I mean, I think when you have the luxury of apple, people want it, but people aren't cutting down apple trees too often when they're looking.
You got to prune your apple trees in the beginning of the year, man. You got to cut some of them branches off anyway. Just save it, dry it out, and you're good.
Nah, but that's that's basically the process. So the smoking, you're gonna need like 4 to 6 hours. You really just want to dry it out. But again, you're curing the meat first, so that's really what's doing the hard work,
Right.
And obviously something different like a big ham or something like that is going to take more time. You have different
Right.
sizes and weights.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the basics. And I got to say, setting up a smokehouse, trying this stuff out before you're in a desperate situation. I mean, I got to say, if all of a sudden there's an EMP right now and everything goes dark, it's really going to suck if you're like, oh, I got to deal with my freezer. I have to build a smokehouse right now.
Right.
That's kind of going to be maybe not your number one priority.
Right.
And that's why we prepare.
Mm-hmm.
That's why as a prepper, you do things beforehand. You kind of figure out, hey, let's try this out. Let's make some meat. Let's see what happens. Obviously you can dry meat and make beef jerky in your oven. You don't need, these special things. And again, if something happens and you have a generator and you can use your oven, I'm not sure that's the best use of your resources.
Right.
But you could dry it out, and do that kind of stuff beforehand. And again, it's going to preserve it longer, but without the salt, you're not getting that permanent. You are getting a lot of time if you do the fat, saturated.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as just smoking or drying out, it'll buy you time because it'll keep it from rotting, but it's not going to keep it from, insects and critters and bacteria to start to grow long term. So no.
Yeah, no, that all sounds good to me. So preservation helps control spoilage by inhibiting growth of microorganisms, slowing enzymatic activity, and preventing the oxidation of fatty acids that promote rancidity. That's those are some big words there. But basically what you're doing is you're killing off the bacteria and drying out the meat so that it'll prevent growth of any kind of bacteria. So that's the way that that scientifically, that's how it's being preserved. That's what makes it last longer. And the lower the moisture content, the longer it's going to last up to a certain point, obviously.
Right.
So yeast, bacteria, mold needs moisture to grow. So that's one of your go-tos there. That's what you want to be paying attention to. Obviously, you want to get it up to a certain temperature without cooking it, without getting it too hot. And, the smoke actually has things in it that preserve meat as well. Right. Like there's formaldehyde in wood smoke. I didn't know that. So, stuff like that. Yeah, stuff like that is be honest with you, smoked and preserved meat, it's got a lot of nitrates. Eventually, it's going to give you cancer. But also, the more smoked meat you eat, the bigger your dick gets. A lot of people don't know that. It's true. Mine is oversized already, so but I can't help myself. I just love that flavor,
The smoky flavor, sure.
Right. So I mean, what am I gonna do? I'm just out of luck there, But so the French called it charcuterie, right?
Yes.
I like to have a bit of hard meats.
Yeah.
In the evening, a nice board of hard meats. Big fan. But pepperoni, chorizo, all these things that are preserved and smoked and fermented. I mean, who's not a fan of different types of meat? You know what I mean? You got to have all the flavors in there. In the United States, we're so accustomed to like beef, pork, and chicken. It's like the three staples. It's all you see at the grocery store. You want to get lamb chops, you're going to spend $18 a pound on that stuff.
Yep.
It's expensive.
It's exotic, right?
Yeah, lamb, all that stuff is overseas, Europe, Middle East. They chow down on that stuff.
Right.
I don't know why in the United States it's so hard to find inexpensive meats aside of the pork. The the chicken and the beef, but that's the way it is.
I think it's because we're so gluttonous in America that we need excess. And so what I mean by that is like, so you have lambs or goat, sheep or goats. Awesome overseas because they're like, hey, this will live anywhere. We can live in this horrible, rocky, crappy environment. They eat anything. We don't need whatever. But you don't get a ton of meat out of a goat or a lamb or whatever.
Right.
Whereas in America, we're like, hey, I'm going to buy, what'd you say, 12 pounds of meat for the weekend or whatever, That's the problem. They don't do that in other countries. They're not like, hey, it's just me for the weekend. I need 12 pounds of meat.
What I think is crazy. A lot of people don't realize this, but the United States is like the only place where you're going to eat meat for 3 meals a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Most places, they don't have meat 3 meals a day. I had a friend of mine that was visiting from India, and they had rice for every single meal. And then on Sundays, they'd add some vegetables to that rice.
Yeah.
They almost never had access to meat, That was fancy, was putting in some vegetables in that rice. It was basically just rice, more, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But I mean, if you're surviving, that's great,
Oh, dude, it was brutal at work. It was Taco Tuesday, right? Earlier this week. And
obviously.
So second shift, by the time they get to us, they're like, oh, we ran out of nachos and taco shells and burrito shells. So it's a rice bowl. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really live in a third world country. So this is I'm not going to pay you $10 for a bowl of rice. No.
No, that's
and I'm like,
disappointing.
if you're not giving me what you're giving the other guy, then I'm not paying. And that's just crazy.
Yeah, no, I think, I think that, in the United States, we get a little bit crazy and I mean, the Native Americans had a thing for that. They thought that if you ate something, you were taking on the properties of that beast. If you killed a big, strong elk, that meat was going to make you big and strong. And in a sense, that does make sense. You know what I mean?
It works.
Meats have protein. If you're going to build muscle, you need protein. But, I mean, that's why they would eat their enemies, right? You're going to eat your enemy's heart because he was brave, and that courage is going to come into you. So,
if he was brave, but what if he's a coward?
Then you're humiliating him by turning his meat into shit.
Is that what it is?
No, I mean, I'm serious. I'm dead serious. That's those are both reasons why you would eat your enemies.
Okay.
So
you got to keep your options open,
different perspective. That's all. I don't really think that way, but I guess, I mean, different strokes for different folks.
To each their own, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So all kinds of different meat. We covered a bunch of ways, but so one of the big things, you do need to go out and actually find some of this salt. And you need to, even if you just go buy like kosher salt or whatever,
right,
and you put it in a 5-gallon bucket and you seal it up tight. Now, again, it's still going to get stuck together and whatever. It's really hard to keep the moisture out. Unless, you have it in a pre-sealed kind of container or you're in there a lot. And again, depends where you are, I guess. But make sure you go get that. Yeah, go ahead.
And Slow Burn had mentioned most of the farm supply stores will sell preserving salt. Not too expensive. You can go buy a big bag over there. Cheaper than buying 50 little cans of that Himalayan salt that costs $9 a shot for some reason. It's salt. Come on, guys, settle down.
Exactly. No, now one of the comments was about, pressure canning the meat, and that's awesome. I just got a pressure canner in the last year. The wife was really, hey, this is something we need. And it's still like we bought an electric pressure canner. All right. So,
all right,
I understand, we can still do canning and jarring, but not pressure, without, because we had the big pots
without power
for doing stuff without power, but we don't have for pressure canning. But, that's something to miss. But, no, absolutely. Pressure canning meat is awesome and something you guys want to, think about. And
Yeah, that's one of the, I have to admit, that's one of the prepping things that I have no knowledge of. Pressure
yeah,
cooking. Yeah. I have no idea how that works.
yeah, no, there's a lot of so anyway, I was going to say with the salt, there's that Azure standard.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to look into that. So that's, you become a member, but it's not like Sam's Club where they, rob you for $50 a year or whatever the hell it is they want.
Mm-hmm.
You just sign up and you can go get deliveries. Now, what they do is, in order to save on the shipping and delivery price, is they'll have one person who likes to do a reasonable size order, or a couple of people who get together, and they'll ship it all to the one person's house. And I thought, oh, there's never anything near me or whatever. And sure enough, I typed it in, and it was like a 25-minute drive to the nearest person who was getting a delivery. And they were like, oh, you have to wait a month or, whatever. They're getting their
Right.
next delivery in 3 weeks or whatever. But I was able to get, a big 5-gallon bucket of it for like $40, $30, something like that. But bottom line, it's, available. And that's what you want to look into is ways to get things cheap. Somebody mentioned farm supply stores, usually have the preserving salt in 50-pound bags. Obviously that would be, a better way to go if you can just go pick it up, because I'm impulsive. Right. I have an idea. I want to just go do it right away. I can't just, I can't wait a month and 3 weeks.
No,
I want to do it now. What happens if the apocalypse happens tomorrow? I need to be ready.
You're caught with your pants down because you didn't do it immediately.
Exactly. So you got a plan. So anyway, that's what I got on that. So we did update our logo a little while ago. I'm sure you guys have seen it by now. And I know, you guys have heard me mention in the past about how the t-shirt quality, I wasn't sure it was really up to the standard that I was looking for. You can get those at preppingbadass.com. I ordered a bunch of the new ones with the new logo, and I had a bunch of friends at work order them, and a lot of people got the new t-shirts, and they seem pretty great. I've been wearing them pretty good. I do have a new coffee mug somewhere.
Ooh,
I have it backwards though.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hang on. There's a button I can hit that'll make it that you guys can see. And now you can imagine what it would be if it was the right direction, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but there's so all kinds of new gear at preppingbadass.com. The new logo, a lot of different variations. I came up with some cool stuff. Anyway, and the quality does seem to be better. So anyway, coffee cup's a little simple, but I don't know, it just seemed right. It was simple and classy, and hey, you can only do so much, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, everybody's got their own thing. If you can butcher your own meat, if you're at home, with your animals and want to butcher your own meat, that's the best way to do it. Make sure it's fresh to smoke. I definitely do that with certain animals, but I was gonna get a goat.
I believe that.
And I talked to a friend of mine that does a lot of his own butchering, and he's like, I'm never gonna kill a goat again, because you have to make friends with it so it trusts you. And it's like smart. They're smart, friendly, like,
hey,
like dogs. And then while you're petting it, you grab it and slit its throat. And he said it was like he felt horrible afterwards. So
yeah, that sounds right.
I don't know that
the
I'm
cute
gonna go
and fuzzy bunnies, whatever. Yeah. It's I had to butcher a chicken 2 days ago. Yesterday, actually, yesterday or the day before. Either way, before work, and the wife's like, oh, that one's got a broken leg, and it's like hobbling around, everywhere. It was weird. These two started out, we had got a regular batch from that Murray McMurray, I think we ordered. So you have to get like 30 or something. It's a big number. And so he's hobbling around, and these two just got so fat. where they were like bigger than any rooster we have, whatever, and they can like barely walk. So I think the way he broke his leg was actually like jumping
Being
off
too
the
fat.
roosting pole, to the
Yeah.
ground. It was just
Yeah.
like, and fell over. And she's like, he's been limping around for days and whatever. And she's like,
you know, chicken was not a meat that people typically ate. It was like, you know, you had chickens for eggs, but they're always so scrawny. And they've been messing with chickens for so long that now the meat chickens, they literally they get so fat that their legs break and their hearts give out. You know,
their hearts give out is the big thing.
So you have to, you know, you raise them to full size and then immediately butcher them.
That was so I was talking to a guy about that, a farmer a long time ago, because I don't do meat birds. I mean, we'll eat chickens as they kind of age out. I'll cook them up. I don't care. People are like, oh, they get tough and whatever.
Yeah, whatever, dude.
You know,
Settle
be a
down.
man up, right? So anyway, I have I was talking to a guy who had meat chickens, and I was like, so what's the deal? And he's like, well, in like 8 weeks or less, they'll get to 10 pounds, and that's when you want to kill them. He goes, if you wait any longer, if I go to 12 pounds, they just have a heart attack and just drop dead and fall over and die.
Right.
And I'm like, oh,
and even if you find that chicken 3 minutes after it died, I'd still hesitate to cook it up, man.
Yeah, he's like 10 pounds is your limit. And these were like leghorns or whatever, you know, your big white ones that they get.
Right.
And he's like, this is what we do, but whatever. Anyway, just a little side note. Anyway, you have questions, concerns, you can email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. And, you know, show ideas, anything you want to talk about, let us know, because, hey, we're here to serve you guys. You know, we want to dig into the topics that you're thinking about. Otherwise, I would say stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys. Oh, hang on, though. If you're watching us on YouTube, we're going to do an after show, talk about some aliens and stuff. I might try and throw a 5-10 minute podcast up with it. We'll see. But look out for that. Definitely be on the YouTube channel. Just search Prepping Badass. Otherwise, stay safe, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Planning a fishing trip shouldn't feel like a full-time job. With FishingBooker.com, you can find and book the perfect fishing trip within minutes. FishingBooker.com connects you with trusted fishing captains around the world. Booking is fast, easy, and secure, with access to verified customer reviews, loyalty rewards, and around-the-clock customer support. Everything you need to book with confidence is in one place. So head to FishingBooker.com and start planning your next fishing adventure today.